Alright, hello. I thought I'd make a little video on my Mack Pinnacle here. A bunch of people in the community, Carnival especially, has started making trucks again, so it's kind of got me in the truck mood, so I've kind of put a bunch of my stuff to the side. And I brought back to life my old Mack Pinnacle, so I started this back right after the Jersey competition for the Record Challenge. I started building this, so, that was the Wrecker, the Maz was actually my first land vehicle, and so there's a lot of stuff in that that really wasn't very realistic, I've learned a lot since then, so let's put it that way. So I decided I really wanted to make an accurate representation of the Mack Pinnacle. So this is what I drive at work. I'm a tractor trailer driver IRL, so I think I got the shape pretty much spot on. Taken a ton of pictures, really worked on that. So I've got some simulated air tanks here and step, some saddle fuel tanks with a deck plate in the back. Fifth wheel and dualies, thanks to Carnival for the dualies. So I think it looks, I think, really spot on. The real Mack that I drive has an MP8 for the engine, so this is the Mack color scheme for that, and it has a gray header cover. It's a 24-cylinder modular diesel. So it gives it good power, but it also performs well. So the big thing to me was I wanted this to perform like a truck. One of my, if I was to levy a criticism at a lot of people, truck builds is they drive a lot like cars. I wanted my truck to drive like a truck. So, a lot of people criticize Stormworks for being unrealistic, and in certain elements it certainly is, but you'd be surprised how realistic you can get this. So what I did here, let's bring it in the workbench. I made an Eaton Fuller 10-speed transmission, which is what's in the real tractor that I drive. And so to kind of go into that, this is the logic for the 10-speed. It has 8 gears. A real tractor, the real transmission, let's look at it here. The real transmission has essentially a high and a low box. So you would have, it's essentially two transmissions put together. You have a set of low gears, and then the mechanism actually flips over and touches the other side of the shaft, which has a set of high gears. And so the way I kind of simulated this is I have my low box here, so so we have the clutch coming in from the engine here. It goes down and it goes into this low section here. You have 3 gears for the lows. Then it goes down through a clutch, and that's to disengage this low section or engage this low section to the next part here, which is a couple of reverse gear, or not reverse gears, but subtraction gears essentially. So these are facing the opposite direction with the arrow. That allows me to really get granular with the gear ratios. And then you have the high box here. So these are your high gears. So for example, for this side, it's going to be 1 through 5, just like it is with the Eaton Fuller. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you flip a switch. It would pop the mechanism over to the other side, and then you have 6 through 10. And so that activates the clutches. So when you're in 1 through 5, this clutch is activated. When you're in 6 through 10, this clutch is activated. All right, so then when you're in the high gears, it goes through your high gears. It goes down through the clutch, and then it has these gears facing the opposite direction. That allows me to have granular control and actually be able to subtract some. So, so essentially what I did is I went on the Eaton Fuller website and I looked at the gear ratios for the Eaton Fuller 10-speed, and I got really close. And so I was able to, with Stormworks' gearing, to get the gears almost exactly what they are. So like first gear in the Eaton Fuller 10 is a 14.8 to 1. I got a 15 to 1. Second gear is a 10 to 1. I got a 10 to 1. Third gear is a 7.5 to 1. Our third 7.5. Fourth is a 6 to 1, which is the same. Fifth is a 5-to-1. Sixth, the high box is where I had to start doing some stuff. So that's where I use these gears facing the opposite direction. So for example, on the real Eaton Fuller, 6 gears, a 3.32 to 1. I was able to get a 3.24 to 1. And so the way I did that was the first gear in the high is 6.5, then 3.2, 9.5. That gives me the 3.2. And then on 7th gear, it's 6.5, 3.2, 9.5. And then I use one of these subtraction gears, or that go the opposite direction of a 5.6. And that gives me a 2.7 to 1. So that gets nice and close. Then for 8th, we just use 9.5 on the top. And that gives us, the Eaton Fuller has a 1.81. That gives us a 1.8 to 1. 9th gear is supposed to be a 1.35 to 1, and I got a 1.25 to 1, so that's nice and close. I did that by use a 3.2 on top, and I counteract it with a 5.6 on the bottom. That gives me a 1.25 to 1. And then 10th gear is a 1 to 1. And then we have this gear here, which I might move. This is just a reverse gear. It just allows me to go in reverse. As with the real tractor, I actually have 2 reverse speeds. That's how it works IRL. And so your low reverse is essentially the first gear reversed, and then your high reverse is your 6th gear reversed. So let's actually, now that I've confused everybody with how a tractor works, let's go in and make this and show this. So I did some testing in the real tractor IRL, and I essentially just did speed testing. So I in real life, I downshift at 1,000 RPM and I upshift at about 1,400 RPM. And so each gear gives you a certain speed. So in the real life tractor, let me look at my my data. So first gear is between 1 mile an hour, between 0 miles an hour and 4 miles an hour. Second gear is between 0 and 5 miles an hour. Third gear, it goes up to 8 miles an hour. Fourth gear goes up to 11 miles an hour. Fifth gear goes up to 15 miles an hour. Sixth gear goes up to 20 miles an hour. Seventh gear goes up to 25 miles an hour. 8 goes up to 35. 9 goes up to 50. And 10 goes up to 65 miles an hour. So one thing those, again, to make a small constructive criticism on some people's truck builds is they're very much like cars. And it makes sense. Most people haven't driven, a complex, commercial truck before with a, 10-speed transmission. And I would say very few people have actually driven a non-synchronous transmission. And so they really don't understand that for me to get from 1 mile an hour to 15 miles an hour, I have to go through 5 gears. Fifth gear gets me to 15 miles an hour. If I want to get up to 20 miles an hour, that takes 6 gears to get to 20 miles an hour. It takes 7 gears to get to 25. To get to 35 miles an hour, it takes me 8 gears. To get to 50 is 9 gears, and then to get to 65 is 10 gears. So your first 5 gears are very low. As they're between 1 mile an hour and 15 mile an hour. Your last 5 gears get you from 20 miles an hour to 65 miles an hour. So you can see the spread and how you have a high and low box. And so one of the great things with this, you'll notice in Stormworks you get a lot of herky-jerky motion. That's because, people are essentially putting in car transmissions, which is fine. They work. But I wanted a real kind of simulation quality truck build. And so let's go into this. Just go over my dials really quick. This is just my gear position indicator. As you can see, I'm just doing manual gear shifting now. I'll put an automatic in there. But as you can see, I start at 1, I can go up to 10, and then I can go down to -1 or I can go to 0 for neutral. -1 is reverse 1, and -2 is reverse 2. So let's start in first. This is going to be my tack. This is going to be my speedo. All right, so now I'm not using the real RPMs for the that you would have in the real tractor, and this is for a number of reasons. One, it's way too loud. It burns way too much fuel, and it burns way too much, and it creates way too much heat. So 1400 RPM is 23 RPS, so that would be screaming. You'd have a lot of too much noise, too much that. So, and then you also need to realize that in real life the Mack Pinnacle has a 6-cylinder engine. This has a 24-cylinder engine, and that allows me to down gear. So what I'm going to do when I finally release it is the tach is going to be multiplied so that it looks correct and that's showing the right RPMs. But you'll notice this will allow us to have a reasonable fuel burn, a reasonable amount of noise, especially 23 RPS is miserable to listen to. This is nice and quiet. So essentially what I'm down to is 8.524. And so again, people are saying, "Oh, you're not gonna be able to get it that realistic with it." Well, it's math. Is if you multiply a gear ratio by a certain amount of rotations, you're gonna get a certain speed, and that's pretty simple. So let's go through and let's start it up. All right, so we're in first gear here. Tach is coming up. I have yet to convert this to RPM, but we're this is going to be RPS for now. So let's look at our speed. So in real life, in first gear, I should be able to go 4 miles an hour. So let's start going. All right, so as you can see, we're right around 4 miles an hour. All right, so that's what I want. And now I'm holding W all the way down. We will never get faster than this unless we roll down a hill. And this is how it works in real life in a truck. And this is great. And why is this great? Well, when you're doing complex maneuvers, you're trying to turn a big trailer around something, you want to be able to control your speed with your gearing. So here's first gear. Again, the test I did in my real tractor was 4 miles an hour. We've got 4.4 miles an hour. Let's go up to 2. All right, we're in second gear. Second gear should get us 5, so we're a little fast on this, which isn't a big deal. We're going 6.6 instead of 5 miles an hour. Let's go to 3. 3 should be 8. As you can see, 3 is right on the money. So I might have actually made a mistake when I was testing the tractor. That seemed a little tight for me. So I think this is actually probably more realistic than my estimations. But so as you can see, we're going 8 miles an hour in, what are we in, third? Third. Let's go to fourth. Fourth should be 11. I just hit a bump. That's why I did that. Here's fourth. We're going to 11 miles an hour. And as you can see, 11 miles an hour. Going to fifth, we should be at 15. And fifth is a little slow, which isn't terrible. All right, sixth should be 20. So we get that on, so we've got 6 is good. Let's go to 7, should be 25. All right, so as you can see, people saying, "Oh, you're not gonna be able to get it realistic." You can see, get it pretty damn realistic because it's just math of of gear ratios. Let's go to 8, should be 35. All right, so we're getting into the higher in the high box. These gears become longer. What longer means is essentially, like my first gear, I can get up to 4 miles an hour. In 10th gear, I can go from 50 to 65. So that's 15 miles an hour in one gear instead of 4 miles an hour in one gear. All right, so we're going 36 instead of 35, so that's nice and close. Let's go 9th. 9th should bring us all the way up to 50. 9th is a really long gear, as you can see. 9th gives us, we were going from 35 to now we're up 52. So we're talking 17 miles an hour in that one gear. And then if we go into 10th, 10th is our final gear. It's a 1-to-1 gear ratio, and you notice we're at 65. So this is as fast as my tractor IRL goes. This is as fast as I want this to go. And this gives you nice stability. As you can see, we're in nice control. And so this is, I think this worked out really well. It gives me a really nice controllable gearbox. Now I'm going to have it manumatic where you can select either manual or automatic. Now I'll make this a little bit of a long video. We'll go through some of the details and the minutia of this. I know some people probably will be bored to tears with that, but some people will be interested. So let's go here and let me, I'm just going to delete out this is part of my drive shaft here. I'm just going to delete a portion of my drive shaft Might stick into the ground a little bit. Let's do it right here. And let's do, I'm going to put a torque gauge on there. And I want you to see how much torque we produce here. So this is important for the viability of actually towing things. You know, one of the reasons why you have all these gears IRL in a tractor is, you know, there's a reason why it takes me 5 gears to get from 0 to 15 miles an hour, and that's to be able to move a heavy trailer. I need all that gearing to get my trailer up to speed. So if I'm just driving around in the tractor, I often actually start out in second gear. If I have a light trailer, I'm going downhill, I'll start in second gear. Theoretically, I could start in fifth with if I just had the tractor, but it's kind of herky-jerky, so I don't do that. But you need all those low gears in order to be able to start with a really heavy trailer. And it also is for speed control. You know, in your car, you talk about, oh, engine braking in my car. In a truck, you need to use engine braking, or you will be going 100 miles down a hill and crash into a mountain. You know, you need the gearing to be able to do that. So let's look at our torque here. Let's go through the gears and let's see the torque here. So we should have pretty high torque value. So we'll start in first gear. Make sure the brakes are off. All right, look at the torque there. First gear is 1900 torque. All right, so that's really good heavy torque to be able to get going here. So we should be able to move a really large, heavy trailer with that. As we go up here, 13, 1,000, 8, 6, 4, 3, 2. There's even lower 2, 175 is 10. So you see, we're at 1/10 of the torque. And so this is, again, why you have a gearbox like this on a truck. Now, this is even a small gearbox for a truck. You know, they have 18-speed transmissions. People are like, oh, why would you need 18 gears? Well, imagine going up and down a mountain with a big, heavy trailer. You need those little fine gears. So, for example, I go to Connecticut a lot, and there's big hills in Connecticut. And so I can't maintain speed when I'm going up a hill. I lose speed. And so often I have to downshift to 9th or even 8th gear, and I might be going 35 miles an hour up a hill. Well, I have a 10-speed tractor. If I had an 18-speed tractor, I would be able to maintain a higher speed because I have more gears to be able to you know, do the fine minutia. So this is working really well. This is you know, this has pretty much identical performance to the real Mack Pinnacle I drive IRL. So that's I'm very pleased with this. So we'll kind of talk about some of my plan for this. So essentially, what I'm going to do here at some point is after I get the Mack Pinnacle done, I'm going to make some truck chassis and put them on the workshop. And I'll make a tutorial video showing how to make a truck chassis, or I'll essentially do a Stormworks basics on a truck chassis. And so imagine none of this cab is here, this hood isn't here, and all you have is the wheels, the frame, the motor, and that transmission. And then at some point I'd like to make an 18-speed transmission. And so this will allow you in the community to be able to take this chassis and then build whatever type of truck you want. You want to build a Kenworth, a Peterbilt, whatever you want to build, and it will have an accurate you know, motor. It will have an accurate transmission that will give you realistic truck performance. All right, thank you for watching.